Go.
Two chairs being set up. Hurry up and find a seat. Are we ready? Let's call this town commission meeting to order. Please rise. Pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Gainer.
Here.
Commissioner Stanley.
Here.
Commissioner White. Here. Commissioner Northline.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Let the record show that Town Attorney John Randolph is present, as is the Town Manager, William Thrasher, and Police Chief Garrett Ward.
I've had an opportunity to review the minutes from our meeting of October 9th. Are there any changes or corrections?
Move approval of minutes.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Gainer.
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Northline.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Changes to the agenda. I believe there is one.
I have an addition. It will be under item 10E, entitled Agreement for Legal Services.
Let's mark that on the agendas. Our next meeting is December 11th. Any commissioners who don't think they'll be able to make it? Good. All should be in attendance. Let's move to communication from the public. Anyone from the public who wants to speak? Mr. O'Hare, you normally are jumping right up there.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First, with your permission, Mr. Chair, may I ask the custodian of records, Ms. Taylor, if there are any items in the commission packages that have not been posted prior to the meeting on the town's website, as is the custom?
There are not.
Oh, thank you. At the last meeting, I showed you all a sign of a nativity scene, which I wanted to post in my yard, and I was told to ask the town manager if that would be okay. And I tried to half dozen times and couldn't get an answer, so I just applied for the permit, and I was told by Miss Rebecca too that a permit's not required. So then I got more ambitious and thought, well, I think I'd like to have a big one on my garage door, so I made a permit request for that. And thankfully, there's no permit required for that either, according to Ms. too. And that's great, because I really wanted to do that. But it raises some questions that I know this isn't a time when you answer questions, but I just want to make the comment, pose another question. If you choose to answer, that's fine. But there's a lot of codes that you've passed to regulate the behavior of town residents. They all carry the force of law. They're all basically criminalize certain behavior. And they're put in place to make everybody apply to the way you want the town to be, which is reasonable. That's your job. But as I pointed out numerous times to the town manager, the codes aren't enforced, except occasionally selectively enforced. For instance, the lawn jockeys. You can't have a statue of a lawn jockey. But this morning, a statue that I brought to the town manager's attention months ago is still there. I know he's very busy answering record requests, but certainly the police have the resources to enforce the code. Statues. There's statues all over town, but they're not allowed by the code. Signs. Now, my nativity scene, I'm grateful I could put it up, but that appears to me to violate the sign code. And I don't know how I could do it without a variance, but you're telling me I could do it, so I'm grateful. But it just seems to me, if you're going to pass a code, an ordinance, that you're not intending to enforce, why burden us with it? You're going to pass a whole bunch of ordinances today that modify the design code. They're all burdens. And if you have no intention of enforcing them, why do it? Is it just to pull it out and enforce it when you particularly don't like somebody or think that particular property needs to be special? I just don't understand the rationale. Now, a number of statements have been made to the press, letters have been put out to residents, presentations made to the state legislature, the League of Cities picked up on information that has a lot of information that's not factual. When I do a record request to ask for any record that would substantiate it, they don't exist. So I don't understand how it's within a government purpose to spread rumors and cast aspersions. How does that benefit the town? It appears to me, and we'll probably talk about this later, that the town just will not admit a mistake. And instead of admitting a mistake, for instance, like Mr. Randolph being the town attorney, it seems like for the past 45 years he's not been the town attorney. But now the town's going to pass a resolution saying he's not the town attorney. If you make a mistake, just admit it and go on. But to rewrite history, to create all this propaganda, doesn't serve the town well. The reputation of the town and this commission, Mr. Ganger especially, who's got a legacy, he's preparing for the future, it's not served by this. We just need to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hare. Anyone else care to speak? Mr. O'Boyle, excuse me.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have been out of town for 30-some days, and I think I missed a meeting. And, one second. However, I watched it on the news, so to speak, and I saw a lot of statements being made. First and foremost, the nativity scene that Mr. O'Hare wanted to install. And Mayor, you wouldn't say whether he was entitled to it, not entitled to it, can do it, can't do it. I think that is an absolute outrage when your town won't tell you whether you can or can't do it, particularly one that involves Jesus Christ. Mr. Graziano last time made several statements. He clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. But that is what that is. And he did make the point that the Civic Association, although in the past he was speaking for them, he made it clear that these were his personal statements. Now, the town, including their lawyers, are likely aware that you've lost every case. You've lost a RICO suit. Before Judge Offendahl, you lost. And both of them had a similar word in their decision. And that was, your efforts were futile. Both of them. And futile, I'm not 100% sure what it means, but I think it means frivolous, can't be brought back to life. And I think you ought to consider that before you spend $1 or $2 million. Frankly, I thought after those decisions, Mayor, that you would resign. Because the money that you've spent in exchange for, you buy a suit for $1,000, you pay $1,000. Here you want to pay $1 million and you don't stand a chance. That's up to you. You're going to do what you're going to do. But what you're not going to do is you are not going to quell my free speech. That you can be assured of. And my free speech comes in many ways. It comes in airplane banners, it comes in trucks, it comes in picket lines, and it comes on me walking the streets with a bell in my hand. I haven't done that yet, by the way. Your actions are just plain malicious. I've been around litigation for almost 50 years, and I've never seen anything like this. It's malicious. Mr. Morgan and Mr. Randolph, they have I guess for lack of a better way of saying it, messed with my family and children. And I don't take well to that. And I'm going to tell you, you will never do that again. Neither of you. Now, Mr. Randolph, you could expect a bar complaint, and you can expect, if it's appropriate, an ethics complaint. And Mr. Morgan, you could expect a bar complaint, if not an ethics complaint in the state of Pennsylvania, where you are a lawyer. Your conduct, absolutely reprehensible. I have several children, and for you guys to attack my children, you got a problem with me? Take it up with me. Or are you afraid of me? Take it up with me. You want to get my kids? You want to get my little girl? Is that what your answer? Is that what you're looking for? Go after little girls? Well, you got to go through me. And please understand that I am not going to put up with that. A lot of people have said that I breached the previous settlement agreement. Specious. Ms. Orthwine breached it, right there. There she is. And Ms. Orthwine said that she was going to remove Mr. Thrasher and that he was an idiot.
That time's up, Mr. O'Boyle. Thank you for those enlightening comments. Anyone else care to speak? Yes, Mr. Graziano.
Since it's been mentioned that I might have spoken on behalf of the Gulfstream Civic Association, let me set the record straight. I have spoken on behalf of the Civic Association at this town council once. It was last December when, at the request of the then president of the Civic Association, Bo Delafield, who could not attend the meeting, he asked me on behalf of the association to thank the people who work for the town for their hard work during the year. I have never on any other occasion spoken on behalf of the Civic Association. And the only reason at the last council meeting I mentioned specifically that I was expressing my own views is that at one point after a meeting, a member of the public came up to me and said that there might be some confusion on the part of members of the public because I have an association with the Civic Association, and that they might be confusing my comments as being comments on behalf of the association. But again, I have spoken on behalf of the Civic Association only once. I identified at the time that I was speaking on behalf of the association, and I will not again speak on behalf of the association unless authorized to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public here to speak? If not, let's move on to the public hearing. We have an application today. Have there been any ex parte communications among commissioners relative to that application?
I drove by the location.
Outside of that? Okay. We have a full agenda today, therefore I'm limiting comment from the public to 3 minutes on agenda items. Anyone who wishes to speak on those items, please stand and be sworn.
You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. We have an application submitted for 960 Indigo Point. Who will be presenting that?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hassan Tajali. I'm a project manager, project director actually, with Ames International Architecture. Today I have my colleague with me, Richard Brumer. We are presenting to you the residence located at 960 Indigo Point for Mr. Herzog. This project is a two-story single-family residential unit with a square footage of approximately 7,100 square foot. The style of the architecture is Anglo-Caribbean with a three-car garage. This plan, as you are seeing it today, was reviewed by the town architect. There were some comments made. The comments were corrected in the previous meeting that we had with the ARB, and we've got the approval of that committee previous to coming here today. Right now what you're looking at is basically the site plan on the far end and the renderings of the front of the house up front, next to me here. As I said, the comments that were made as far as making some corrections to the elevation, making some changes to the windows, making some changes to the eave heights, they were all taken care of. Here to answer any particular question that you might have and walk you through the plans as your question comes up.
How did you adjust the eave heights? Because I noticed there were 3 discouraged elements in this application.
Yeah, we still have the 3 discouraged elements. Some of the eave heights in the back and on the sides were dropped lower to sort of line up with the lower eaves. Not all of them, of course, as you mentioned, we have 3 discouraged. The roof on some of the areas, especially in the back, were changed. Richard, you want to come up front and just point out as I'm talking? The roof.
I'm sorry, that is one eave height that we had it much higher, like a dormer on top of the garage, and it was a question because we had an extra element there, so we lowered it so we have one eave height on the garage area on the front of the house. Another element was this roof, that this was basically creating a 2-story wall. It was overwhelming, so we added the element of, we had the balconies, but we added the element of the mansard roof in the middle to cut that effect of having a 2-story wall. And also on the side, we added this element here to get the 2-story element from the neighbor's property so it doesn't overwhelm, as well as we push the house away from the property line.
Thank you.
Excuse me, while this gentleman is leaving, there's a seat up here. She's not returning, so here to see.
Go ahead.
Those were basically the elements that we fixed as far as roof issues to minimize the impact of having those 2-story walls and additional roof elements like on the front of the garage having more than one eave.
Also, initially, we also had on the front entrance a hip roof that was omitted just to comply with the requirement, and it now has a balcony with a handrail on it. We had some pilasters in there, which again was we were asked to rethink that design feature and to simplify it, and the pilasters were also deleted and replaced with just a regular handrail on that area.
Do you have a photograph or an illustration of the house that's currently there that's going to be taken down?
It probably was in our original package that was submitted. But right now we don't have any with us. I'm just informed that there was, in the original package, there was not any existing photographs of the building. The current building there is a 2-story building. It has brick facade. It has a wraparound balcony all the way in the back. The garage is detached with a breezeway connecting it to the main house. It's a two-car garage, if I'm not mistaken, and plus minor landscaping. There is a gate that we are, in our new design, we are removing it based on the city requirements that there are no gates allowed. There were an arbor up front at the entrance where the gate is located that was kind of cluttery, and we are also taking that out. Again, part of the city requirements, cleaning it up. And we are adding quite a bit of new landscaping, of course, being the fact the project is a brand new project. We are adding quite a bit of landscape.
And the house to the left as you enter on that circle there, is that two-story?
That's the one-story
One
house.
story.
Yeah. There are two-story houses on the neighborhood. It's just a mixture of two-story and one-story. I believe on that the same side, maybe 2 or 3 houses down, there are two-story houses next to us, and on the opposite side of the street, there are about 1 or 2 two-story homes in there. And as I said, the current structure is a two-story house.
Rita, have any of the residents nearby commented?
I'm sorry?
I'm asking Rita, the clerk.
There was a couple of representatives of one of or 2 of the neighbors that came in and looked at the drawings back before they went to the ARPV, and they had no problem with it.
Okay.
It's a great lot with the southeastern exposure.
That's spectacular.
And, I gotta tell you, it was mentioned at the ARPV, and it's quite obvious to me here, the amount of glass on that back wall area, it almost looks like a, well, I don't know how to describe it. It is within the 50%.
It is,
I'm not quite sure how it could.
yeah. We had our consultants mathematically determine the percentage.
One point that I want to bring, which we discussed that in the previous meeting, the fact that we do meet the 50% requirement. Also, the back elevation that you're talking about, it's not a linear elevation. You don't see that entire span from corner of the building to corner of the building in one facade. There are bends, 45-degree bends into it, so it's not all in the same facade, in the same plane. And the fact that in front of a lot of them, we have added trellis work, balconies, things of that nature to sort of play with the facade, pushing it forward, pushing it backward, just not to have everything on the same plane facade that, from what you're saying, which I do agree will look overwhelming. So that all helped to break it up quite a bit. So if you look at the elevations, for instance, the elevations are 2D elevations. They're kind of not quite accurate. So if you look at it in the renderings, you see that in fact there are bends in walls, and you don't see all of them in the same planes. There are trellises that were added. So
My problem with, and I have the impression that this home was pushed to the max of our code. We have 3 discouraged elements, primarily increasing the elevation by changing those eaves, and exaggerating, in my opinion, the glass vista on that back elevation. And I don't, personally, I don't like that. It's as if you pushed it to the max to maximize the box-like shape of this home. That's my take on it.
Are these balconies occupiable? In other words, can somebody sit out there, or are
Yes.
they
Yes,
designed to?
certainly.
yes, they are.
They're usable spaces.
And how far is the house, I know it's in here, from the seawall? In other words, it's from where I sit.
Look at the side plan.
It should,
From the seawall, we are, I would say, probably about 55, 60 feet. Because that's the seawall right here. That corner is about 60 feet, and that corner is about 30 feet. So on this side, it will be 30 feet. On that side, it's going to be 60 feet, plus or minus.
on the rendering of the lower right side, I mean, it looks like that's almost all glass.
Yes?
Yeah. What abuts to this side to put it in proportion with the 50% rule?
I'm not quite understanding what you mean. This is the second floor of the living space. On the second floor, you have the balcony that comes out, and you have the railing, you have the trellis in front of it, and this is the living space down front. And yes, it is glass and it's divided, and as I mentioned, it does meet the 50% that we are allowed to do. And we divided it accordingly to the pane of glass that we are allowed to have. So if we meet all of those criteria, and the fact that they are not all in the same plane and the house actually jogs, you see all of that? Usually when you look at the back elevation, it's not from that point to that point all in the same straight plane. That I would agree with you. It is overwhelming. This doesn't. This, you see this segment, then you have all of these jogs in it, then you see that segment in a totally different plane. Totally different facade of the house. You never saw those two in the same. If you're here, you have only the view of this, not that one. If you're on that side to view that one, and this is out of your side.
Well, where is that area on your
This rendering?
on the blueprint to the right? The one on the
This basically
the one on the lower right.
This one.
That, yeah,
This corner is right here.
right there.
So you have that balcony and the trellis. And that is cut from this side with this area here, that is, sorry, that area there, that is less windows. So the areas that we have, that the owner wanted more windows because of the view, we added the element of the balconies and the trellis to minimize the impact of the windows. The areas that we have less windows, we didn't add that element, so it breaks it. It's not that the whole facade is a facade with windows, it's, you know.
What is directly across the canal at that point? Is it the Gulf Club or?
I think it's the golf club. It's quite wide at that portion, so I believe it's the White Club. Golf
And
club.
the yacht you see here, is that in a cove or on
I'm sorry, where?
the yacht you see on this drawing?
Oh, that is just for the.
Fancy.
It's yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's for the owner's benefit. Drawing pretty pictures, basically.
But that notwithstanding, I noticed there was in the recommended approval, some specifics as to the dock and the davits and the whole 9 yards. Is that where the dock is, or is that?
It might stay there. He was thinking about putting the yacht on the intercoastal side.
And this
He's basically debating that.
Yeah, was that discussed at the ARPB?
No, other than the condition that they must, in the event that they work on either the lift, dock, and seawall, they must conform to our code 66,
Yeah.
369, whatever they do.
That's correct. Yes.
I'd be curious to hear from any Plaza Soleil folks. Mr. Snavely?
Could you step up to the microphone, please?
Yeah, have you been sworn? Did you stand? I don't know.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm at 965 Orchid Lane, Plaza Soleil. And just reviewing the plan, totally understand the windows on the first and second floor because the view is to the Gulfstream Country Club. It's a nice view, nice intercoastal view. It looks like a very fine house as long as it meets your code.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Mr. O'Hare?
I agree with Mr. Malone regarding the code, and I only got 3 minutes, so I'll try to be brief. My New York accent in here. I tried to buy this, well, I was thinking about buying this house from Commissioner Anderson when she was selling it back in 2012. I was concerned because there was a lot of hedge material that had been low at the time of the architectural review and when the code was passed, but subsequently got up to 12 feet or so. And I asked Mr. Thrasher if this was in violation, if I would have to correct it, and he wrote me a letter saying that the requirement for any permit triggers the need for conformity to the code. So, Mr. Thrasher, and I believe the town code says if you're gonna get a permit, it has to be conforming now. Now, the house itself is very compatible with all the other houses on the street. My question is about the landscaping. You just passed an ordinance in August 14th saying that 75% of the plants need to be below 3 feet. This house shows hedge material that's existing. It's very tall. There's other plants in the center plan that aren't shown on the illustrations. I don't think a calculation was done for that 75%, was it? Does this house conform? Okay, I can answer the question. This application was received on August 28th, 25th. The ordinance was passed August 14th, so it's not non-conforming, it has to comply.
I got it.
Okay. The other thing is, there's a 3-car garage. The existing code says if you got a 3-car garage, it's got to be covered with some shrubbery. If it complies with the code of 3 feet lower hedges, now it's not complying with the code for having its view blocked. Specifically, it says, section 70-244, 3-stall or larger garages not adequately screened or buffered from roadways are prohibited. If you bring the landscaping into compliance, it's not adequately buffered. So the 3-car garage needs to be reconsidered. Given that there are issues here that are in direct violation of the code, is a variance going to be required, or are you just going to say, go ahead and do it? It's another ordinance that will only selectively enforce. And the reason I bring that up is because 3 years ago, Mr. Randolph, as a town attorney, asked me if I was flipping a bird to the town because my plants are too high. So now I'm saying if my plants are too high, what about these? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions of the applicant?
Yeah, can you just point out for the record, the number of windows that, and the elevation that don't have mullions or buttons, if you will, versus the ones that do, to give it a house scale feel?
The only one is the master bedroom, and I'm trying to locate that. It's nothing, just shot. The only one is the master bedroom, which is around the corner, which is on this area. That's the only one that doesn't have any.
So then the other one, all the other windows?
All the other windows
they've
are.
got like dimensional buttons on the outside?
Absolutely.
Impact, yeah. Okay, thank you.
These are all impact windows, I assume.
Correct. Yes.
I don't think I fully understood the answer to Commissioner Stanley's question. Is that on this drawing, are the ones you're talking about the ones clear to the left? I was looking for any windows that didn't have buttons. Is that?
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
That's it.
And why, I mean, you could still see out of a window with buttons.
It's just less clutter. It's the master bedroom. The owner wanted to have a clear view, and I mean, if that adding buttons to it would, help the design, we'd be more than happy to do it.
Any other commissioner have a view on that?
It is much clearer view to have a non-mullion window, I'll say that. I mean, I like mullions, but it's a much clearer view. I've seen them on the Davis house at the end of Palm Way. It's quite nice not to have it for a view.
I agree with you, but if it's permitted, that's a
Yeah.
discretionary element for the owner. It seems to me. I actually had the same comment that Mr. O'Hare raised, and that was about the garage. I couldn't tell from the plans, I can't tell from this, whether the coverage from the street actually does comply. I think this is recommended for approval, I believe, through staff. I just want to make sure, as Mr. O'Hare did, that was addressed.
Perhaps I could ask, although you were not, I think, in the discussions earlier with staff, could you identify the front and side lot lines for me, please? side lot
This.
lines?
This,
Well, could you do it one at a time, please?
okay, side lot line, this is where the garage is,
Just run up and down,
side lot line,
okay? And now the
front
next,
lot line, right there,
okay, that's the front
that's the front,
and the
and
side,
this is another side.
and, okay.
Okay, so it's a side face.
It is
Correct.
side facing, and having been there yesterday, you know, I'm not sure you could see the garage.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't see any garage
Yeah.
door from the street.
It's fine, yeah, I just couldn't tell. Any other comments, questions? If not, we'll entertain any motions. Good job, gentlemen. How about it?
With regard to item 8A, an application submitted by Shane Ames, Ames International Architecture as agent for Kenneth and Irma Herzog, owners of the property located at 960 Indigo Point, Gulfstream, Florida, 33483, versus item A, recommend approval of a demolition permit for the site to remove any existing structures from the property.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Second motion is item B, land clearing permit to clear the property for the new construction. Motion to approve.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Item C, motion to recommend approval of a special exception to permit 147 square foot of covered unenclosed area that exceeds the maximum floor area ratio pursuant to section 70-72B2.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Item D, motion to approve approval of level 3 architectural site plan based on the finding that the proposed construction of a 7,091 square foot, 2-story, single-family Anglo-Caribbean style dwelling with attached 3-car garage and a swimming pool meets minimum tentative design manual and applicable review standards for the following conditions. Item 1, any minor modifications in the landscape plan shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval. Any major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to commencement of landscaping. Item 2, all boat lifts, docks, seawalls, etc. will conform to the town code, section number 66-369, docks. And item 3, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the owner of the property shall prepare and record a deed restriction, which shall provide that all roof projection areas shall remain unenclosed as per approval of a special exception for as long as the structure is in existence or exceeds the maximum FAR.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
All right, let's move on to reports. Mr. Brannon, underground report.
Danny Brandon Gillespie. We're going out to advertise for the construction of the north phase on the 29th of November. We expect to have a pre-bid on the 6th of January with an award about 2 weeks later. Well, but pre-bid on the 6th, we'll have 2 weeks later, we'll have the bids due, and about a week later we'll award it. So by the end of December, or January rather, 16, we'll be under contract with the construction process. AT&T's essentially through on the south end, and Comcast is seems to be trying to finalize. They're working on South Road at this point, unless they completed that in the last couple of days. The street light over here has been installed, the demo, you've probably seen that. Other than that, we're trying to get the north end cranking, get it under construction.
What is the work that's currently being done on Gulfview in that corner? It seems like there's somebody up in the trees just about every day. what are they doing?
I haven't seen them, but they're probably taking down their old cable, taking the terminations off. They're up in the, on the poles.
They've been up on the poles, they've been, it was at least 3 weeks ago that they actually took down the line. But by the way, they've also taken out the streetlights, which have been dark now for like 3 months, which has to be a safety hazard. I can't believe that, particularly directly across from my house on that, on the road going back there, it is really dark there. People are coming up that road, and they will often put their car slightly ahead so they can look around and see what's coming north and south, and there's, you know, there's no lights.
That is supposed to have been corrected. Bill has some updates.
I think in part that what you're seeing in Gulfview is related to the issue of the lights, and that wires were pulled out of the transformers. We made them aware of this most recently, and they have repaired all but, I believe, 6 lights, and they are still working on them. They have obligated themselves to the commitment that street lights on A1A should remain on until other lights are installed and energized.
We're working with FPL on the relighting of A1A with underground type lights.
And when they took all the old wires up, that almost, are those their wires, they gotta keep those, or are those our wires? The coaxial wires that were pulled out?
We do not want the coaxial
Okay.
cables and those kind of wires.
Okay, so they're gonna, they haul those off and that's gone?
Right.
Okay.
And is phase 2 being delayed as a result of the incomplete easement? You've got, indicates here 7 remaining easements that have not been obtained.
We feel that we can work around them. We are still working with people to try to resolve any concerns they have. If we also are looking at options. In several cases, we have found alternatives that were acceptable. In these cases, we will find alternatives if we have to. We're moving forward.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
We had a delay with the presentation, for instance, to the Gulfstream School Board.
Yeah.
Probably about a month on some easements there. We have a couple things like that.
Okay, just want to make sure there's nothing slowing it down.
Danny, if you have the contract signed in January, what is the timing of beginning of construction generally?
They will begin construction as soon as possible, pending the availability of material from FPL.
Is that a week?
Typically
Is
about
that
3 weeks.
3 months?
Typically about 3 weeks. We've been working closely with FPL's representatives to make sure material is going to be available.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brennan.
Oh, I have a question. Am I allowed to speak?
Absolutely.
Danny, Mr. Brennan, when will this be finished and we won't be hearing from you on a monthly basis? Can you give me a... Sincerely, I mean respectfully.
Right. I believe the window is about 8 or 9 months to complete the construction that our contractor would do, and then we'll be at the mercy again of Comcast and AT&T to remove their facilities, which has been a pretty lengthy process. And once that's done, the FBO will come in and remove the poles and the roof.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's move on to the town manager with Bear Island Fire District feasibility study.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we have published an RFP for the Barrier Island Fire District feasibility study. We have had our bid openings, and the committee has reviewed and evaluated the 4 proposals that we received. The low responsive bidder is Matrix Consulting Group from Keller, Texas, in the amount of $39,000. It is my recommendation that this town commission award that bid to Matrix, and also select as the second choice in case something does not materialize or a problem materializes with Matrix, to Fitch and Associates out of Plant City, Missouri. Their bid was $48,600. So I'm recommending Matrix Consulting and an alternate of Fitch Associates, and also to authorize the mayor and the manager to sign the contract.
Any questions of Mr. Thresh?
I guess that, not a question, but a statement. It seems to me that given the, how long it's taken us to get this far, we probably should be looking at a budget allocation, probably to as much as the second bidder. The worst case, I think, would be for whatever reason, Matrix backs out at the last minute. We have to turn to somebody else and we didn't allocate enough money to pay for it. It's money well spent. If we don't spend it, I guess we could return it or do something, but, this is a really important project.
Do you have any indication why Matrix might back out?
No,
Okay.
that's just a redundancy thought.
And
Back up.
This is being shared by the other members of the
We have all participants financially supporting the project in some form or fashion.
just for the public's edification, who are the other municipalities?
We have South Palm Beach, Manalapan, Piney Breezes, Ocean Ridge, and Gulfstream.
And this is to explore what we've talked about, a number of meetings, particularly the budget meetings and that for projecting future expenditures, is to explore the possibility of a barrier island fire and EMS district. Something that would be based either in Piney Breezes or Gulfstream, but something to service us so that we would not be at the contractual whims of either Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, or anyone else who would have to provide that service to us. Mr. Thrasher has done a tremendous job putting this together in short order, frankly, and getting the other municipalities to participate. Are you looking for
Yes.
a motion or just policy?
I have one question.
Yes, comments?
I'm curious as to, aren't there any local consulting companies that would be more familiar with the area than somebody from Texas or Missouri?
We actually did have one that was local. They did not
Want to
win the
participate?
award. Many of these companies put together a pool of expertise from throughout the area and to assist them with the evaluation. It's what we have, and I think that the product that we are looking for will be able to be evaluated by our consultants as well as the evaluating committee. We have a consultant that is going to be helping us evaluating and making sure, a local consultant, making sure that the product that we get will be adequate for our needs. So we've kind of encapsulated that need and that suggestion of yours on the back end by using a experienced local fire chief.
Mr. Mayor? I apologize if I didn't hear, and this was already said, but of all the municipalities participating that could potentially benefit by this, are they all equally contributing to the expense, or is it on a per capita, or a benefit ratio, or how is that divided up?
It's divided up approximately in this manner, and it was discussed at the very initial part of the possibility of creating the feasibility, and the commission has been informed of this possibility. The Manalapan, Gulfstream, and Ocean Ridge are contributing approximately $9,667,000. Piney Breezes and South Palm Beach are contributing $5,000. As you know, or probably suspect, that This is a commitment from the representatives of those communities, and the official allocation of monies will be handled individually, and they're saying that they are committing to it, which is all that I can obtain at this point in time. Brian Breezes at the very front end told us that they could not equally share the cost, but we felt that they were a component, and to bolster goodwill between communities, we recognize their inabilities to fund such a project. In addition to that, the problem is that Gulfstream is the only one who has budgeted for the last 3 or 4 years, monies, actually budgeted monies for the project. So they are on the short end of preparation, but are willing to step in and do what they can to accomplish this task.
Thank you for the answer. Just as a follow-up, will there be an interlocal agreement between the municipalities, or will just Gulfstream pay the bill and then they'll reimburse us?
The intent is that Gulfstream will pay the bill, and Gulfstream will then send out a invoice, which has been discussed with the participants. They prefer to handle the invoicing, the method of payment as an invoice. In the event that something materializes for a feasibility study to the development of a Barrier Island Fire District, I'm not sure exactly the legal formation. I believe it would be a community development district for the purpose of providing EMS and fire. But if this progresses forward and materializes, an interlocal agreement will be in some form or fashion created.
But even on the invoicing, the town managers will obtain approval from their commissions to proceed.
Yeah.
It's not like we're just gonna send out an invoice and hope we get paid. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had some discussion.
So we're looking for a motion relative to the Barrier Island Fire District feasibility study to award bid to Matrix with an alternate as Fitch and Associates, and to authorize the mayor and town manager to sign contracts relative thereto.
Correct.
Move approval of the exact language that the mayor just articulated. It's an easy way out, but you got the correct.
I'll second that.
Very good. Rita?
Commissioner Ganger,
Yes,
Stanley.
yes.
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor, I have one other item.
Sir.
It's not on the agenda. It is something I don't normally do, but I would like to relay to you a conversation, a part of a conversation that I've had recently that I believe affects the town of Gulfstream, and that has to do with the private sewer system in our town. The government of Gulfstream does not operate that, but this, recently I was asked to allow cutting into the roadway of Gulfstream Road, which basically, cuts across the road from one side to the other. It leaves the patch appearance and so on, which is okay because that road is not too good a shape. But I was informed in that conversation that there may be 7 to 10 other such occurrences in the future, and it is my intent to invest monies in some of the roadways, including Gulfstream Road. So I'm not sure how to prepare for that sort of thing, but I will say that the issue of the private sewer system is becoming more and more a town government criteria of consideration. And that completes my report.
Just for my understanding, you're saying as many as 8 households
Yes.
want to connect?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, that's why I asked the question.
Okay. As you know, the Gulfstream Golf Club paid for the connection to the private sewer system. In doing so, they ran a line with your permission, on the east side of Gulfstream Road. in the future, if a septic system fails, by county law, perhaps state law, they will now be required to connect to a sewer system if they're within, I think, 500 or 1,000 feet of that system. So in the future, if as happened this week, a septic system fails, they would be required to connect to that sewer line. The problem is that we have a coral ridge that runs down the center of Gulfstream Road, and when you try to directional bore or drill, that drill head, when it hits that coral, pops up and makes it impossible to drill through unless you have the proper type of drill equipment. The proper type of drill equipment requires more lateral room than we have in our small town. So I have no indication of others that want to. I just know that the laws are such, the requirements are such that if it fails and there's in this case, the sewer system is nearby, it would be required to connect.
Bill, when you said that the septic system failed, you mean that like the drain field needs a new drain field? What exactly do you mean?
Same.
A new drain field?
Yeah, and in most cases, the capacity, what's happening, I'm not pointing the finger, and I'm not saying from an engineering standpoint, that typically when the drainage field fails, there is the determination that the septic tank is no longer adequate in size for that system.
Said a different way,
Additions and
we used to,
renovations.
said a different way, we used to install smaller septic tanks than are required today. Simple as that. And further, I think the people of this town have to understand that with rising sea levels and a lot of other environmental threats, there is a strong move towards eliminating septic systems entirely in the coastal communities, which to Gulfstream would represent a huge investment. If we had to convert, not that we choose to convert, if we had to convert, to link with the either Boynton or Delray sewage system. So I think what Bill is proposing is prudent. We have to do it. But I also think we ought to be mindful of the fact that at some time in our future, we may have to do more. And it's an unfortunate fact of sometimes you solve a problem you don't have. But to a lot of people, particularly environmentalists, they feel that septic is a horrible problem. And, you know, someday it may well turn out to be that way. So I think we have to do whatever we have to do to make sure that what we have is adequate and works. And then be very vigilant that somebody is going to shove a sewer installation on us when it may not do us any good whatsoever.
Any other comments from the commission? Not, thank you, Mr. Thrasher. ARPP meeting is November 19th. Put it on your calendar. Finance report.
You have been provided a financial report, October 31st, 2015. This is the first month of the fiscal year, so it's not a real exciting report to provide you. So,
Zero revenue and lots of debt.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
But we have a report, so.
Okay, any comments? Didn't think so. Chief Ward, what's going on in the town?
It was a very quiet time. Nothing to report. The first step in the section is submitted.
Any questions of Chief Ward? We'll accept that as submitted. Thank you. Okay, we turn now to items for action. We have some resolutions.
We have Resolution 15-10, A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing a $30 per month additional charge on all water bills issued by the town, said charge to be entitled reserves, to be used for infrastructure repairs, replacements, and improvements relating to the water system located within the town of Gulfstream, requiring that the town maintain a separate account for these funds, which shall be limited to the purposes stated herein, and providing for an effective date. This is being presented for approval this 13th day of November 2015.
This has been discussed a number of times, but just for everyone's recollection, we need to beef up our water reserves. We have very old water lines in this town, and should one require repair or break or leak, it's very expensive to repair. The last one that occurred, I believe, cost over $1.5 million. Money had to be taken from the general fund for it, so as a result, we need to beef this up. It's the prudent thing to do. Any comments?
No.
A resolution, I'm sorry? Yes, Mr. Ford.
I didn't really come here to speak about this, but I'm speaking strictly as an individual citizen.
Okay. I guess, have you been sworn?
No.
It's just glad, doesn't matter?
Yeah, I don't think.
All right, then I guess you don't have to be sworn.
I'm just curious, and I haven't heard other discussions about it, maybe because of the summer and so forth. Certainly a big issue and one we have to face. I'm just interested to hear, have we got a strategic plan for dealing with this? Do we have financial projections going forward? Are we looking at other alternative sources for financing this kind of activity? Infrastructure is certainly important and we want to stay on top of it, but we're probably one of the lowest funding rates for borrowings that we could possibly. Have we got a plan?
Yeah, I think the plan is to build up those reserves. We've already done a decent job of it. You'll see that our reserves are due to Mr. Thrasher's in-house development of our certain activities. We have been able to put money into those water reserves. We're also increasing the rate and adding this special addendum tax, if you will, to try to build those reserves up. I personally explored the option of borrowing and have received information on that. The advice I was given was not to borrow until you absolutely need it. We don't absolutely need it. So I don't think it would be wise, at least in my opinion, to float a bond or borrow money to shore up reserves. We'll take care of that when the time comes. Studies have been done of the water lines. We have ideas on their age. I believe there is no evidence presently of any leaks or need for repair. We're just trying to be prospective.
I would suggest that particularly in the current environment, you communicate to the town what this is all about. $360 a year is a lot of money to somebody.
It did come up at our budget meetings. This was discussed. But that's why I wanted to remind everyone again, because we talk about so much, it's easy to forget. But clearly the last several budget meetings and meetings to project for future expenditures, the one we had in May, we dealt with the need, and I think the consensus was that there was a rather urgent need to develop reserves in the general and water funds, and this goes toward that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, adding to that, as you know, we have depleted our reserves for storm, for everything, as a result of the environment we're in now. So that clearly, you ought to start sometime. And when you have 70, 60, and 50-year-old pipes that are sitting in sand that's filled with salt, at some point in time, they're going to go. This isn't the Roman aqueduct, it's Gulfstream. And $2 a day per household, I guess most people would say, is a prudent investment assuming that over a long enough period of time, we'll build, was it $4 to $5 million is what we?
$4 to $5 million
Yeah.
estimated.
But that can take, you know, hopefully that will take years to get to it.
4 or 5 to 7.
Yeah.
But as the mayor said, our last encounter was approximately 1.5 to 1.8. So as quickly as we can build reserves to 1.8, 1.8, that 1.5 to 1.8, which we're probably 2 years away from. And as soon as we can get to that point, we have a little assurance that if the same thing happens, we will be able to, rather than take money out of the general fund, we'll be able to take it directly out of where it should come from, the water fund.
So,
If I may, get a follow-up then. So what you're saying is that this is gonna take care of it?
we would hope so. That's the strategy. I think you're absolutely right. There's kind of a unstated strategy here, which starts from where we were, which was, as you know, under previous administrations, we didn't spend a whole lot of money on infrastructure. So it was our intent from the get-go to start putting funds back into reserves, both to cover what we've lost as a result of all the activities in town, but as well to be in a position where if we have to borrow, we already have a kitty. And I would suspect that most borrowing agencies would view Gulfstream as a pretty good bet, and even more so if there was a good lump of some money in the system to get started. You don't replace, I mean, we'd have to go get money damn fast, because when these things go, they go. We have floods, we have people potentially not be able to get to their homes. These pipes, when they go, there's a lot of pressure there. What is the pressure that comes through?
Minimum of 45 for
Yeah.
health purposes,
Yeah.
and some can range to 60
Yeah,
PSI.
so we got a lot of PSI coming through those old pipes.
I don't think there's any question in anyone's mind about the need or the situation. The question is the financing. And I just sitting down again, encourage you to communicate this to the public generally, not because we talked about it here. Because they ought to know about this and know that this takes care of the problem for the foreseeable future and know that it's to build a reserve. And I don't think they gain it from normal sources.
Yeah, no, good point. And while we've umbrated to it, I know I have not been specific on this particular resolution, so.
I thought we discussed it with the residents that attended.
We did.
But again, the point is,
Yeah.
who's here, that's in May, a lot of people leave, they don't, obviously, many people don't watch the videos, and people don't know. So, obviously, it's a good point. This commission has strived to communicate with the public, particularly with all the changes and the needs that we have to address. So, well said, I'll take care of it.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Mr. Boardman. It's something that we need to plan ahead for. But I would suggest that if it costs $5 million to replace any old infrastructure, well, that's about what Tom Ladani spends building a house in town. It doesn't seem to be a big deal. If you found out tomorrow that the pipes needed replacing, you go to the bank, you get a loan, you come back, you pass a bond, and for 20 years, everybody just pays it off. I don't understand the crisis here. I'd like to ask you though, 2 years ago, the water fund had 66,000 reserved for the reserve fund in the water fund. This budget period, it's 132,000. So we have a fund that's 132,000. Is this reserve fund in addition to that reserve fund, or is this money going into the original reserve fund? Are we gonna have 2 reserve funds or just the single one?
You have the water reserve, you have the water
There's only
reserve
one-
and the general reserve.
Well, this just says establishes a reserve account, and I'm just wondering, is that the same as the account we already have?
I think that's
Yes.
Let me,
nomenclature.
maybe I'll try. We have a pooled cash account between general fund and utility fund. This particular item is identified as a reserve for R&R. And it is different and separate from any net revenues that the fund itself may generate from year to year. Net revenues being, on the positive side, revenues being higher than the expenses, and that's from an operational standpoint. But regardless of the operation performance, this reserve will exist and will occur on a billing cycle. So the fund itself has a reserve for R&R or repair and replacement.
That's the 132,000.
That's what is budgeted, that's what was budgeted in the fiscal year 2015, 2016, as a result of the discussions that we had publicly about increasing the reserve amount from $30 to $60.
I'm sorry. So the $30 a month for everybody is not going into that.
Additional $30.
It's not going into that reserve account. This is a new reserve account.
No, it's the same thing.
Oh, it's the same.
Well,
Well,
which you are speaking about is the same thing. In addition to that, you have net revenues, which is the difference
I
between.
understand that.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is a few months ago, Commissioner White diligently asked you whether the money, the extra money between the cost of water and what's billed to customers was being used to go transfer to the general fund. And I believe in your answer you said, well, the town lent $1,200,000 to the water fund to replace a water pipe, and then the town subsequently forgave that debt. And I did record research and found out for at least the last 20 years, it's the town's custom to yearly shift money from the water fund to the general fund to pay for lawyers or whatever. So I'm just saying, since this specifically says this money can't be shifted, if it was part of the other reserve fund, or this is just a unique little bank account.
As if I were in a deposition, I would say that the record speaks for itself. However, that's not what I said.
Okay, well, that's what I heard. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. It's typically what happens when you comment. You take something and then expound upon it in a direction that was never intended to be.
Just a question.
That
That's what I
was more
heard.
than a question, but okay.
I just wondered if, since this money can't be transferred to the general fund, if it was part of the other reserve, but I'm still.
Well, actually, you have management fees
I understand.
that are transferred from the water fund to the general fund, which are associated with the management of the water fund that is handled by the general fund. So it's a very usual technique or method of paying for the management of the water fund. And that's what that transfer is about. And what I said was that the commission has the right to make decisions. If they chose to take all of the money from the utility or vice versa from the general fund to the utilities, that is a policy decision, and it's within, I believe, their scope of authority and purpose.
No, I'm not questioning that, I'm just asking how it works. Thank you.
If you'd like to meet with me on that, I'd be more than glad. That's actually a topic I love discussing.
Yes, Mr. Graziano.
Let me start by admitting my ignorance. I don't know the exact legal structure under which water is delivered to residents of town, and I am not a tax expert. But I know if you increase my property taxes and fund the repair of the water system through my property taxes, I get a tax deduction. I'm not at all sure that I'm going to get a tax deduction for this additional $30 water charge. So I guess my question is, why didn't you just take it as part of the property tax increase?
Well, we are dealing from an accounting standpoint with two different funds. The general fund, which generally provides for the general services of the town of Gulfstream. Then you have a water utility fund, which is apart and separate and should be managed differently than the general fund, in that we have user fees. Those people who use the service pay for the service. And it is correct that property taxes are generally tax deductible. This user fee is not. And so we're not raising general fund revenues to transfer to the water fund. That has never been even mentioned or discussed thus far in the 2015-2016 budget. I think this was hypothesized by Mr. O'Hare, and that's not it at all. We must maintain two separate accounts, and the transfer that takes place on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, from water fund to the general fund, is an allocation of payments for the management of the water fund that is performed by the general fund.
Well, I understand why, let's say, user fees might be over here in this basket,
Yes.
but to have the infrastructure available to the town, no matter how much one uses, I would argue you could put it in a different category, and you could fund that through property taxes, but I'll leave that to the tax experts to deal with. Obviously, we're not gonna get a tax deduction for this additional $360 a year.
No.
Anything else? If not, we've had read on first reading resolution number 15-10. Is there a motion?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I would like to,
Mr. O'Boyle.
yes,
Walker? No.
no, not taking my walk, too difficult here. This is under XA, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. The $30 per month. The $30 per month, is this commission willing to say that those reserves or that amount will not be used for any other purpose other than water?
It's in the resolution.
Pardon? I know it's in the resolution. That's
Resolution
not what I
speaks for
asked you.
itself. We're not gonna be getting into a Q&A with you on this.
Pardon?
We're not gonna get into a Q&A with you.
So,
Resolution speaks for itself. If you'd like to comment on it, that's fine.
well, that's what I'm doing, I'm asking you a
No,
question.
you're asking questions.
Pardon?
You're asking questions. Make a comment.
Okay, I read the $30 per month as being a reserve. I see nowhere in here where the reserve could be used for anything other than water. I may be mistaken. And I guess my question, based on that statement, is, am I correct or am I incorrect?
Is that a comment or?
It's a question.
Yeah, I know it's a question. I'm not answering your questions.
Okay,
Speaks
well,
for
maybe somebody
itself.
else will.
Our fund, no, you direct your questions and your comments to the chair. The chair will address
Then the
you
chair
as
should
concerned.
respond to my
I've
questions.
told you I'm not gonna respond to it. You bring us into litigation all the time, Mr. O'Boyle, and we're not gonna be dancing to that tune. Now, the resolution speaks for itself, our accounting procedures speak for themselves. Mr. Thrasher has spent a considerable amount of time explaining to Mr. O'Hare those procedures. I think that should answer whatever questions you might have.
Well,
So
you
if you
think
have
wrong.
any comments, please make them.
You think wrong. I never mentioned the word litigation here, but I'm certainly glad that you did. And the reason I'm certainly glad that you did is Mr. Ganger made an affirmative statement, I think 2 meetings ago, because I wasn't at the last one, that every judge in Palm Beach County has at least one case, and some have 3 or 4. That's what Mr. Ganger said, and you can look at your own minutes and see that. What we did is we took Jones Foster, your attorney, and we took all of the,
I'm sorry, is this a comment relative to resolution 15-10?
it's a comment relative to the litigation that you just brought up. That's what it's a comment
I
about.
don't think I brought up that litigation.
You certainly
But the
did.
point is, you may comment on resolution 15-10,
And,
but we're not gonna be commenting about litigation
well, that's what you did.
relative to resolution 15-10.
But that's what you did.
No, stop it, Mr. O'Toole.
Well, do you want,
You go. How much time does
do
he
you
have?
want to play it back? We can play it back.
Well, and I didn't
Your
set the
3
thing,
minutes
but
are
I
up.
timed it.
Please sit down, your 3 minutes are up.
Anyway, this is what Mr. Ganger said. There's
Mr.
54
O'Boyle,
judges,
your 3 minutes are up.
And
Please have a
there's
seat.
38 cases.
Chief,
So, it was an untruthful sentence. You gonna arrest me?
no, we're asking politely that you sit down.
Sit down.
Marty?
I get my pen. Would that work for you?
This is amazing.
Just have a seat,
You're not the only, thing in town.
please.
Comment?
He is. He thinks he's the only one in town.
Yes, Mr. Ham.
Mark Hanna, I used to, as you know, I used to represent Mr. O'Hare. I've been out of this for about 2 months. And the one thing about this ordinance is you're collecting the $30 a month under this ordinance, and it's limited to using it for water services. But at any point, the commission can come in here and change it with a 3-vote majority and allocate these funds to the general fund. Isn't that true?
I believe that is correct.
Yes, it is absolutely correct. I know it's correct.
Okay.
So is this going to be something where you're building up a fund to, and again, I'm out of this. Mr. Randolph, I think I had a reputation with the town that I handled my matters professionally and courteously. And the town can build up a large fund and then simply with one ordinance, a 3-vote majority, transfer this to the general fund, where then it's allowed to be transferred to someplace else. Because you're only allowed to use transfers from the general fund to allocate it to someplace else. So just so the public is aware, you say that the record speaks for itself, or the ordinance speaks for itself, or whatever conversations you have speaks for itself. I heard that in numerous depositions. The citizens, and actually we have a lot of citizens here, need to know how this can operate the long term down the road. And that's the only point I wanted to make. Your Mr. O'Boyle and Mr. O'Hare, they seem to be, I understand why. You disregard what they say, and it's something that it can be frustrating, but it's something that the citizens have a right to know, that down the line that this can be changed. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. It's a solution looking for a problem. We've indicated what this is.
Well, you know, Mr. Morgan, you have the bully
No, wait a
pulpit.
minute. Whoa.
No,
whoa.
Mr. Morgan.
No.
Okay.
You,
Mr.
what?
Morgan.
Mr. Hanna, please.
Mr. Morgan,
Mr.
you have the bully pulpit.
You
You
are
do
not-
this consistently, where you make
Chief,
comments
we're not
after
gonna
someone is
have
done.
this. We're not gonna have a
Okay.
disruptive witness.
I'm
It's
not
gonna happen.
I'm not being disruptive. You
Mr.
make
Hanna,
comments after
you-
dinner
Chief,
checks.
please direct your attorney.
Sir,
or
I will
police
sit down.
officer.
Thank you.
Have him sit.
You make comments after
Mr. Hanna.
people are done.
Mr. Hanna, please. Okay. We have a resolution. The resolution speaks for itself. It has been responded to by comments and questions from the public, and comments and some questions from the commission. I think, again, what is being raised are solutions looking for problems. I think it's rather self-evident. This commission does not do anything underhanded or in any way to try to undermine anyone's trust in this municipal government. We do what we do for the betterment of our town. We do it in good faith, as does our staff. And that's all I'm going to say on it. Any other comments, questions on Resolution 15-10? On first reading, is there a motion to approve?
This would be adoption, actually.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Gainer,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Let's move to Resolution 15-7.
This is
I'm looking at,
ordinance 15 /6.
Yeah.
This is an ordinance of the Town Commission, Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida. Pardon me. Amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 42, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 4, Drainage Regulations, Section 42-94, Design Criteria, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date. It's being presented on first reading this 13th day of November 2015.
Questions?
The new, the change, I just wondered how it compared with the former criteria.
Okay. I'll try to answer that. Generally speaking, I'm not an engineer, but our previous code required that the first 1 inch of runoff be housed on site for any development. The South Florida Water Management, as I believe their requirement is 3 inches of runoff to be housed on site. Our drainage plans will now have to be addressed by that level of scrutiny, and the properties will have to provide for retention, control of runoff under their rules and orders. The situation was that it's my recollection that we had conflicts about this within our own code. One time I think it said 1 inch, and another time it said something different. But this makes it consistent for the town, consistent with South Florida Water Management, and this is generally what other municipalities do as well.
It can move with any changes in those standards.
It changes
Without
as they
trusting.
determine it should be, and they have a little more technical expertise to determine such things than Gulfstream.
Any other comments, questions? If not, is there a motion to approve ordinance 15/6 on first reading?
I'll move to approve ordinance 15-6 on first reading.
Second. Read it?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes?
Commissioner Orthwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. All right, now I've got my numbers in line. Let's move to 15/7.
This is an ordinance of the Town Commission, the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida. Amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 22, Nuisances, Article 3, Noise, Division 3, Noise Abatement and Control for Generators, Section 22-78, Regulations, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. This is being presented on first reading this 13th day of November 2015.
Comments? Questions?
Yeah, I agree with that. That the generators would have this decibel reading at normal running rather than full load. I was wondering how that would affect people who already have generators.
Well, it wouldn't affect them. I will tell you that all generators that have been installed since our current code have met the full load requirement. This is a more lenient code, and I believe that it will basically allow generators that are noisier to function and operate within the town. It wasn't my recommendation to do this, but I was outvoted, so.
Any other comments about that? Essentially changing from full load to normal run.
That's correct.
Does make it a little easier, a little louder generator. If there's no other questions, comments, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 15/7 on first
Excuse me,
reading?
Mr. Mayor, may I speak, please?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.